You're 60 years old. Maybe you got 5 to 7 years before you want to stop working. And if you're being totally honest with yourself, you're not financially ready. So what I'm about to do is give you your emergency plan to salvage the next decade. So if you don't know me, my name is Brian Lessinger, and I spent 25 years helping people navigate financial crisis, whether it was in real estate or just in their personal finances. But the 60-year-old who realizes they're behind, or the people I've even met that are even older than that when I sit in their living rooms talking about buying and selling real estate, those are the toughest conversations I ever have to have with people, because here's what nobody wants to admit when they're 60 years old, is that you're starting to run out of time for that long, slow, steady approach I always talk about, and letting compounding win over time. There's no more start investing and waiting 30 years. There's no more, hey, let's go buy rental properties when we're young and let them get paid off by the renters and appreciate over time. At this point, you're going to need more aggressive moves that work in a more compressed timeline. And here's the good news, okay? I've seen people completely transform their financial position between the ages of 60 and 75, not through things like trying to get rich quick schemes, but through strategic acceleration of everything they should have been doing for the past 20 years. And yeah, it'd be great if we would have started in our 20s and 30s and did all these things, but now we're 60 and maybe we haven't. So most 60-year-olds, from what I have seen, typically have around $200,000 saved for retirement, and they're hoping that their Social Security payments are going to cover the gap. And to me, that is not retirement. That is kind of what I call managed poverty. So if you're willing to make some really hard moves over the next 5 to 7 years, you can still retire with dignity and security and have that financial freedom that you're really looking for. So in the next, let's say 10, 12, 14-ish minutes or so, I'm going to show you exactly what I would do if I had to start over at 60. And I'm going to talk about the debt elimination strategy. I'm going to talk about how that frees up thousands of dollars every month for you, and why your house could be your biggest untapped asset. I see it all the time sitting in living rooms talking about people in their houses, and the income streams that work in retirement, things that you need to do. And so, of course, we're also going to talk about Social Security moves that can add at least $50,000 to your lifetime benefits, okay? So we're going to go in depth on all these things, and let's talk about point number one, okay? The first point is this: the debt / what I call emergency plan. Priority number one, this is something you got to start working on, is this. We have to eliminate every payment except your mortgage, okay? So at 60, having debt isn't just expensive. To me, it's retirement poison. You just can't have all these payments that you have going out all the time, okay? So every monthly payment that you have is going to steal from your future, what I call financial freedom, or your future security. And here's what we want to do. Here's what I call the emergency debt plan is. You have to list every payment. So if you have credit cards, if you have car loans, if you have personal loans, if you have any debts for anything, okay, put them on a list. And what we want to do is we want to attack the highest interest debt first while making minimum payments on everything else. It's kind of the snowball thing you hear about all the time. But here's the thing: when you're a 60-year-old, we're going to have a little twist on this, is you're going to use every available resource you have, okay? We might cash out unused vacation time. We might sell stuff you have in your garage or in your house you haven't touched for years. You might even take on a part-time consulting job. You're going to have to work every available potential overtime hour that you have at your job. So at 60, if you can figure out a way to earn $20,000 extra dollars, you're going to eliminate these debts, and you're going to be able to potentially have $300,000 extra in retirement purchasing power. And what do I mean by that? Well, I coached a 61-year-old nurse recently who eliminated $47,000 in debt in 18 months by working weekend shifts and selling 20 years of accumulated stuff that they didn't need. And I know that's kind of brutal, but yes, it freed up $1,800 a month that she was able to now put into her retirement accounts. And if you were able to eliminate $1,500 in monthly debt payments, that's $18,000 annually that you can redirect into your retirement accounts. But over 7 years, it's over $126,000 of growth. And that debt elimination just bought you an extra $200,000 in retirement security. So we got to get these debts gone so we can stop paying other people and start paying yourself, okay? Another one, and being a longtime real estate agent, your house is one of your secret weapons, okay? Your house isn't just where you live. It's probably, and for most people, what I see is their biggest asset, and potentially they're also their biggest opportunity. So most 60-year-olds, if they do own something, are sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars in home equity and treating it like a museum piece. It's like money you can't get to. And here are 3 potential moves that you could actually use in order to tap into some of that money, okay? First is refinance if necessary to eliminate PMI and lower that monthly payment. Second, you could get a home equity line of credit and use that money to fund some of your investments. Or third, you can downsize strategically and unlock a lot of cash. This is what I see a lot of people doing. So let's say you're in a $900,000 house and you only have a $250,000 mortgage. You can downsize to a $600,000 house, eliminate your mortgage entirely and pay cash. And not only did you free up that payment you don't have anymore, but you also got an extra $50,000 in cash that you can use to invest or put into your bank account. So it's a really good strategy for a lot of people. And for a more advanced move, if you live in an expensive area, consider relocating to a low cost of sales state for retirement. So, for example, we see this a lot where I live in Reno, Nevada, where let's say someone has $1 million house in California, and maybe they move here and they buy a $500,000 house in Tennessee or Reno, Nevada, or wherever it might be. You can potentially have $500,000 in cash put into your pocket, and you would have lower property taxes and no state income tax. And there's just so many benefits. You're seeing a lot of people do this. I'm seeing it a lot lately where they're coming to Nevada from Washington or Oregon or California. So, I recently spoke to a 60-year-old couple who moved from California to Nevada, and they were able to basically get the same quality of a house for half the cost. They also put $180,000 in the bank, and that money now generates them $600 a month in dividend income, while they also were able to drop their cost $2,000 a month. So there's lots of ways you can do this. Also, if moving isn't an option, consider doing a HELOC at today's rates to fund a Roth IRA or conversions into rental property or down payments. You can use this money for a lot of different things. And at 60, you can still use leveraged real estate investing to your benefit. You can be more conservative with your property selection, but there's lots of different ways you can use the equity in a house to really benefit you in the long term if you have a lot of equity there. So, third, the income stream, what I'm calling assembly line. So at 60, you need to build multiple income streams that work whether you're healthy or active or dealing with limitations, health-wise, whatever case may be, because relying on Social Security and a 401k withdrawal, it helps, but it can't be the only plan, right? It's just, to me, the first part of what you're doing. So if you're in a position where you can't work the way you used to work anymore, you can consult in your field. Likely people like myself have a lot of experience where I'm able to basically package it, sell it, help others. Like, for example, if you were someone who's a former teacher that's not teaching anymore and you're looking for some residual income, you can become a tutor. People that are ex-managers can become business consultants. Or for people like me, I could help them with their money and finance and trying to figure out how to invest in other assets for themselves. Retired nurses could do home health care. There's lots of ways you can quote unquote retire, have some income from that, but also be able to create some income in some other ways. Some other streams of income might be dividend-focused investments where you're creating some cash for yourself. At this point, we're not looking for growth stocks. You're looking for things that create income. So if you can build a portfolio of dividend-creating assets that might make 3 or 4% annually, that's huge. And if you have $500,000 invested that generated $20,000 a year in dividends without, that inflationary hit that you take on those, it's a huge thing. So a third way to generate some revenues would be real estate, but not in the way that you think. We're not talking about fix and flip it, but what you do is you buy turnkey rental properties in stable markets, or you can invest in REITs. I do this. I buy rental property in the Midwest that I could buy, a $250,000 house that might generate me $1,500, $1,800 a month in revenues each month. Of course, there's going to be some expenses with property taxes and house maintenance, but these are things that you can start to think about to generate revenues while you're not working, so you're not just eating up your retirement accounts, okay? And then another one would be if you could create, annuities for a portion of your portfolio. I would say annuities get a bad rap, but at 60, having a $2,000 monthly guaranteed income definitely takes pressure off everything else. So just know there's lots of ways that you can start to create some revenues for yourself. Another one that we talk about, and this one's very sort of, depending on who you talk to, everyone has an opinion on this, but Social Security, right? And trying to optimize when to take it, when not to take it. Most people will leave at least $50,000 on the table. So when you should claim your Social Security matters more than how much you paid in. Every year you delay from 62 to 70 years of age, you increase your monthly benefit by 6 to 8%. So if you're in full retirement age, benefit is $2,500 a month. Claiming it at 62 only gives you $1,875, where if you wait till you're 70, you're going to get $3,300. I've heard people say start claiming it at 62. I've heard some people say wait until you're 70. But if you wait, then you hopefully are going to live long enough to max out those benefits. There's lots of different ways depending on what people's financial situation is. There isn't necessarily a right or a wrong way, but if all of a sudden you went from $1,800 to $3,300, that $1,400 a month is a huge difference, especially if you're someone healthy enough to keep working until you're 70. So for some of you might have to delay that, but there's a lot of different strategies, with this. And so again, if you're married, the higher earning spouse should delay Social Security while potentially the lower earning spouse can start to claim it early. There's lots of different ways you can maximize survivor benefits or total household income. While delaying Social Security, you can bridge a gap by withdrawing from a retirement account strategically. There's lots of ways to think about this. So if you don't understand how all this works, you really should have someone helping with your financial planning, but you're trying to create tax-efficient income that will allow your Social Security to grow at a guaranteed 8% rate annually. And I just was talking with somebody about this the other day, a 63-year-old client of mine who delayed Social Security till they were 67 while living strategically off their 401k withdrawals, and that delay added almost $50,000 to their lifetime Social Security benefit. So there's some smart ways to do this. One other one we want to talk about is healthcare. So let's talk about the expenses because, again, as we're talking about 60 and over, it can destroy retirement plans if you have no money for healthcare. So if you retire before 65 and you're looking at $1,500 to $2,500 a month for health insurance, I know for me right now as a 55-year-old, I pay a ridiculous amount of money for health insurance. You don't have tons of great options. Cobra's available for short-term, there's ACA marketplace plans. I'm looking into local healthcare options for myself. But I'm almost paying $1,000 a month just for me right now at 55. I can only imagine what it's going to be as I get older and older. And so when you hear people talk about the secret weapon, I personally don't know tons about this one is, but it's maximizing your health savings account contributions now. So at 60, you can contribute $4,550 plus $1,000 catch-up, and they're tax advantaged, and these are monies you can put in there so that later when you're paying for some of your healthcare costs, you'll have money there, and it's tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals for medical expenses, and you can consider the long-term care insurance that you might need that you're probably not thinking about while you're healthy now. But at 60, that policy might cost $2,000 a year annually. But by the time you're 70, that thing could cost as much as $6,000. And who knows by the time 10 or 15 years goes by for me. So who knows how that's going to work out. But the earlier you can buy this stuff, the more that you're going to save. So always think of factoring your healthcare as about 20% of your retirement income. So again, if you're needing $80,000 a year for retirement, you're going to have to budget in $16,000 for healthcare. And let's be honest, that is not an optional thing. Medical costs are only going to get more and more and more expensive. So you can see for all of us that waited, that we're 60 and over, you got to get aggressive with this stuff. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it, okay? Starting with serious retirement planning at 60 means you're going to be making some really hard decisions. You can't afford to coast for the next 5, 7, 10 years and hope it all works out. But here's what I've learned coaching hundreds of people through this exact situation, and I usually meet them initially because they have a house to sell and they're trying to figure out what to do with this stuff is. It's not about having perfect timing. It's about taking perfect action with the time you have left. So some of you are going to watch this and feel overwhelmed. They feel like there's no way I can do this. And that is totally normal and understandable to feel that way. But others are going to recognize this is a wake-up call that they needed, that, again, we could have, should have, would have done this a long time ago. But if you eliminate your debt this year, you're going to optimize your home's equity this year. You're going to delay Social Security strategically. And we want to build up those income streams in the short term so that we can win at this game and someday be able to comfortably retire. So here's your homework that you need to do this week, okay? Calculate your debt payments, research your home's current value, estimate your Social Security benefits at different claiming ages, depending on whether you do it at 62 or 70 or even older. So don't just consume this information, take action on it. And the 6-year-old who acts on this plan will retire with some dignity and some security and will get to that financial freedom place that you're looking for. And the one who waits till another 5 years and all of a sudden now you're 65 to start planning, this is just going to get harder and harder and harder. So don't wait, start now.